All right, OLR exclusive fans, we are on with none other than David Marciano. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Sunday, and that means football.
Nice, nice. We're more basketball people here, but
Well, you should be. You won the title last year.
oh yes, my husband doesn't miss a game, so
It's fantastic. I was there in the inaugural season when the Raptors expanded in the NBA.
nice.
Yeah, Damon Stoudemire was your main player at the time, and I was working on Due South, and Alliance was nice enough to get me tickets whenever I needed them.
Oh, that would be awesome to be able to be there at see an actual game live.
It's fantastic. I loved it.
Nice. So
So
David,
congratulations.
oh, thank you. So David, I know you're a very busy man, so I'm gonna get right into this interview. So
Okay.
what made you decide to get into acting?
I didn't know I wanted to be an actor. I took an acting class in college. I was at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, studying biomedical engineering. I was going to quit college, and then my mom suggested I take an acting class. So, in order to appease my mother, I took one. I fell in love, and I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Nice. So just right at the start, you knew that's where you wanted to head.
Uh, you know, when you're a teenager in your early 20s, you're looking for your purpose. You're looking for, in general, most people. I mean, some people know early on. I did not know what my calling was or what my purpose was until that day I took an acting class in that area of my life.
Okay. So in 1989, you played the diner owner Stanley in Pepsi's diner commercial. What was that experience like? And are you a Pepsi fan or are you a Coke fan?
Uh, I prefer Coke over Pepsi. I don't drink a lot of pop anymore. Um, but I do prefer Coke over Pepsi. That was interesting because that was directed by Leslie Decter, and that was early in my career as an actor. And what was really fascinating about that commercial is a friend of mine was in Cannes, and they were waiting for a premiere of a movie to start. And back in the late '80s, they showed commercials in the movie theater in Europe, and I think they probably still do. And my commercial aired. I forget what premiere it was. It was like it was either the opening gala movie, and there was me live, not live, but there I was on that screen in this commercial, which featured me as Stanley. It was
Nice.
fantastic. I loved doing it. It was all improv.
Really? So none of it
Yeah.
was scripted. It was just say what comes to mind.
It was sort of just a scenario. Yeah, the director gave us a scenario. The ad people gave us a scenario, and we just riffed.
Oh, cool. That'd be definitely a different way of doing it. I've never heard of it going.
Yeah, Leslie Decter. Leslie Decter, who was the director of that commercial, that's how he worked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So my husband wanted me to ask you this question because it's one of his favorite movie series, and when I had booked you for the interview, he did a little bit of his own research on your background and saw that you played cop number one in Lethal Weapon 2. How did you land that role, and what was it like working with Mel Gibson?
Okay, so that's a really interesting story. So um, when I auditioned for the movie, I auditioned for one of the detectives that surround Mel and Danny in the precinct. They were looking for 4 to 5 cops to play detectives. So we had waited over an hour and a half to get into audition for Dick Donner. And I was getting really tired, and it was really hot out at Warner Brothers. It was the summertime, and I was getting ready to leave because I had just found out that I didn't get this pilot that I had auditioned for, and I was just feeling kind of melancholy. And my friend, Tommy Hinckley, came walking in to the waiting area, and he was like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm out of here, man. I've already been waiting an hour and a half. This is ridiculous." He says, no way, man. This is Dick Donner. This is Lethal Weapon 2. You got to stick around." And I was like, the only way I'm auditioning for this movie is if we can go in together. Because Tommy and I were best friends, and we were like Heckle and Jekyll. So the casting director comes out, and we ask, would Dick be willing to see us together? And she says, "Look, it's a little unorthodox, but I'll ask." And Dick saw us together. And so we both go in, and we have a great time. And then it turns out that Dick only wanted to hire one of us as the detectives around Riggs and Murtaugh. So I decided that I couldn't do it because there was no way I was going to take a job without my friend Tommy, who, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got offered the job. So I went home for Christmas break, and I took the script with me because I really wanted to be in the movie. And I read the script a couple of times, and then I wrote 3 scenes for me and Tommy to be in the movie. And Tommy's agent knew one of the producers, and we got a meeting, and I told them what we wanted to do, and they gave us a shot. And during the actual filming, in the first couple of weeks of filming, we went onto the set, and we performed those scenes for Dick Donner and Shane Black. And they didn't hire us to play those roles that I wrote into the movie, but because we did such a really good job, Dick gave us 3 days on the movie as cop number 1 and cop number 2. And all those scenes were also improv when we shot them.
Okay. That's a really cool story. Like, that's true friendship when you look at it and you're like, I want to do it, but if my friend's not going to do it, who actually kind of pushed you to, wait and stay and do the audition, if he's not going to get it, then you're like, I don't want to do it either.
Right.
Okay. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Did you get a chance to work closely with Mel Gibson?
No, not really. The scene that I was in, the scene that Tommy and I was in, Mel and Danny were in a car driving on the streets, and we were listening to it over the police radio in the precinct. So we were in 2 different locations.
Okay. All right.
But I did get to meet both Mel and Danny. And one of the questions I asked Mel, I forget what the question was, but his answer was, "I really would like to be in Australia scuba diving on the Barrier Reef." And then the question that I asked Danny Glover was, "Is that suit Italian?" And he said, "No, it's Japanese." I said, "That's so funny. I own a Japanese suit from Kenzo." He said, "Oh, yeah, I really like Kenzo as a designer." So those are my only 2 interactions with the stars.
Okay. Very cool. All right, so moving on to what I know you from, well, in 1994, you were cast as Detective Raymond Vecchio on Canadian TV show Due South. How did you land that role, and what was it like working on that set?
I got the audition. I read it. I read the pilot. It was very funny. It was written by Academy Award winner Paul Haggis and Emmy winner Paul Haggis also. And I thought it was funny, but there were a lot of Canadian references that I knew the American audience wouldn't get. And when you audition for a TV show, you have to audition for two scenes. They give you a couple of scenes to work on, sometimes more. And I got the one scene down really well, but the other scene I was having a really hard time with. And I was going to pass on the audition. And my agent said, no, this is the second lead in a CBS pilot, and if you get this, you could be a multimillionaire. So I said, all right, I'll go in. So I go in, and I'm waiting, I swear to God, like an hour and a half, and I'm getting a little annoyed. And I finally get in the room, and it's just Paul Haggis and Nan Dutton, the casting director, and I read the first line, and it comes out of my mouth like rubber cement. And I stopped, and I said, I apologize. I'm really sorry. I'm having a hard time with this scene. You know what? I'm just going to pass. Really? And they're like, no, please stay. I want to hear you read it. And I said, no, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, but I don't think this role is for me. And I left. At about 2 hours later, I get a call from my agent saying what happened. And I told him, and he said, well, Paul Haggis thinks you're perfect for the role, and he'd like you to come back in and read for the director. Oh. And then he said, how tall are you? I said, I'm 6 feet. He goes, well, the Mountie is only 5'10", 5'11", and you can't be taller than the Mountie, so you need to take off your shoes when you get in the room or slouch. And I was like, okay. So I go in to meet the director, and I immediately take off my shoes, and I hunch down just a little bit, imperceptibly to them. And I ended up reading for it, and I ended up getting the job.
Nice.
Now, as opposed, what was it like on the set? Paul Gross and I had magical chemistry. But it was very challenging to be on the set because I was the only American on a all Canadian writers, actors, producers, directors. I was the only American, so I kept having to fight for the American perspective. And so it got a little contentious sometimes, and I would always fight to say, look, the Americans aren't going to get this reference. The Americans aren't going to get this reference, and maybe we should take a look at that and find a way to change it up. And so Haggis wasn't very flexible at that time. He had won an Emmy for 30-something, and he is a very good writer, and he was a showrunner. So we would butt heads a little bit. But Paul and I, we worked fantastically together when we were acting, but when we weren't acting together, we were really opposites. He was a cowboy from Calgary, and I was a city slicker from Newark, New Jersey.
Oh yeah. I even noticed like you and Paul had awesome chemistry on set. Like just watching you two on the show, like it works so well.
Yeah, it really did.
Also,
thank you.
Oh, no problem. You're welcome.
Or shall I say, thank you kindly.
I honestly, like, I worked at a fast food joint here in town, and I would get the odd person that they would say thank you kindly after I handed them their food, and immediately I'm like, you're a Due South fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I think only Deucers would get that reference.
Oh, yes. I'd kind of giggle in myself, and then my coworkers would look at me funny, but it didn't matter to me. I knew what they were talking about.
Exactly.
So you and your wife played opposites each other on Due South when she played your ex-wife, Angela Vecchio. What was it like working together on that?
It was really good. I was so happy that, and that's the one thing about Paul Haggis. He's very generous. And, he's very, if you ask him, hey, what do you think? Can we do this? And if it has to do with family or it has to do, with something personal, he's like, yeah, no problem. But when you would ask him something about changing in writing, he'd be like, no. So it was so funny. And I said, I'd love to get, my wife in the show. And he said, yeah, let me figure that out. And he also put my cousin in the show. My cousin Michael Marciano was visiting with his son, also Michael Marciano. And, my cousin Michael has bartending experience. He was a bar owner and a club owner. And there was a scene with me in the bar. And I said, hey, can you think my cousin could do that scene? He goes, absolutely, let's have him do it. And we did a little improv, and we came up with a bit. And he says, what can I get you? And I said, how about a cranberry and club soda with a wedge of lemon? And he says, you think you can handle it? And so, yeah, I got to work with 2 family members on that show.
I think I remember that episode.
I believe it's episode 2 in season 1.
I believe that's true.
That's my cousin Michael.
That's so cool to know that. Like, to actually, like, be able to put that together, that it's not, like, that it's family that you worked with.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's cool. So in 95 and 1996, you were nominated by the Gemini Awards for Best Performance by an Actor in a Continuing Leading Dramatic Role for your work on Due South. How does it feel to have been nominated?
It was, I was very excited. When you first come to town, you have a dream and you have your goals. And, one of my goals was to win an award for acting, whether it be an Academy Award, an Emmy, a Golden Globe, or a Clio, which is commercials. So when I got nominated for a Canadian Emmy, I was very, very excited and honored and grateful to have been given that material, which was good enough for me to perform to get nominated in that category.
Well, I'm not sure who you were up against, but I think you should have won that award.
Well, I also thought I should have won the award in season 2. Paul Gross won it both years. Paul Gross won it in 95 and 96. I really thought that I should have taken the statue home in 96, but, it is what it is.
Well, you just keep pushing forward and you get down the road.
Yeah, I agree. It's coming.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
So in 2004, this one kind of caught me off guard because I've watched CSI Las Vegas. It was another religious show that I watched. And so you played Frank Samuels, a guardian for Adonto and Zero Adams. How did you land that role, and what was it like working with the cast of CSI?
It was, auditioning is always peculiar, and it's always very interesting how you end up getting the role or how it all comes about. I had auditioned for that casting director for almost 14 years, and I've never gotten hired out of that office. And that was the first time that I got hired by Ehrlich Dawson Kritzer is the name of the company. So that was kind of exciting. The casting director actually called me at home to tell me, and I said, this is the first time that you guys ever hired me. And they were like, I had no idea. But yeah, it took 14 years of them calling me in for different shows for me actually to get hired. I'm sorry, just watching football there. There's a fumble. So, and then it was fine, CSI is CSI. All of my scenes were just probably with that, what was the young man's name who played that role? He was on Grey's Anatomy for a couple of seasons. I can't remember his name, but he was a very sweet young man.
Do you mean the one that played Zero?
Yeah.
TJ Knight, I think?
Yeah, TJ. Yeah, he's a great guy. It was great to work off of him.
Oh, yeah, that was such a great episode.
No, I'm glad you liked it.
Just the story that with just you and Zero and Adonto, knowing that his brother had kind of killed himself to make sure his younger brother was taken care of, like. And the way
Yeah.
you guys played those characters, it made you feel the story.
Well, thank you.
And so I'm going to move on to Sons of Anarchy. It was a bit smaller role, but I mean, it was enough where I was like, oh my god, that's Ray Vecchio. And my husband's like, who? And I'm like, due south, it's Ray Vecchio. Because I'm the type of person where, like, I connect with, like, I remember that. Not so much the actor's name as they do the character. And I know it should go with the actor's name, but you played the Chicken Man in that episode.
Correct.
Where you drove up and you were meeting Juice, and it actually was a setup. What was it like being on that set of a biker gang show?
The director was Gwyneth. What's her name? Gwyneth Porter. I want to get her name right. Can you look that up real quick? Anyway, we'll get to that. Her name was Gwyneth, and can never pronounce her name properly. And she was from she was from The Shield. And Kurt Sutter, the creator of Sons of Anarchy, was from The Shield. So it was nice to have, the Shield kind of family, friends and family lineage to work together with. And I wanted to come up. It's hard when you come in for such a small role and try to fill it to let it breathe and give it a life of its own. And, being he was called Chicken Man, I didn't know if he kind of moved a little bit like a chicken, with those jerky movements, and like those twitches and those head bobs. And I was trying to sneak some of that stuff in to incorporate it. But I don't think any of it really made it into the final cut.
Hey, the Chicken Man, like, you knew he was, there was something off. Because he was he was that shady character, right?
Yeah.
And you knew, you're like, does Juice trust this guy? Or should he walk away and, go with someone else? But he actually, you made him, trust you, and he got in the van, and, well, it didn't turn out so good for him.
No, it didn't. He lost his cut.
Yeah. So in 2013, you were nominated with the whole cast of Homeland for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series by the Screen Actors Guild Awards. How did it feel to know that your whole cast was nominated for an award like that?
Well, it's just a testament to the talent that I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by or associated with. We keep dancing around these awards with nominations, and I haven't won one yet. And they've thrown the word Emmy around many of my performances from the very beginning. My performance in Wise Guy. So I know it's inevitable that I'm going to win one of these days. You just don't know when. But it's really exciting. I mean, I really thought we were going to win that year, the SAG Award, because Homeland was so popular, and Claire Danes had won the... hold on one second.
Okay.
Hi. So, when Downton Abbey won, I was a little surprised, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a great cast, don't get me wrong, but, they're called the SAG-AFTRA Awards, and I didn't even know if Downton Abbey was a SAG-AFTRA show, because it was shot in England, I believe, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, so I was a little confused about that, why the SAG-AFTRA Awards would... I don't know, give an award to a show that's not a SAG-AFTRA show. But good for them.
Well, I know that that award is coming for you.
And what do they say? What do they say? Bully for them, shitty for me.
Aw.
That's okay. It was so fun to be there. Let me tell you something. Being at the SAG Awards that year was amazing. Because Playbook Silver Linings was nominated, and there was Robert De Niro, and my friend Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad was nominated. He was there. Jane, what's Jane's name from Glee?
Lynch.
Jane Lynch was there. It was so great to be amongst my peers. I went right up to Robert De Niro. I was like, "Hey, Mr. De Niro, hi, Dave Marciano. I'm an Italian-American actor, growing up watching you. I just wanted to come over and introduce myself. I got to work with one of your good friends, Joe Pesci, on Lethal Weapon 2. And I said, hey, Joe, we're from the same hometown. I'm from North New Jersey. And Joe goes, it ain't North New Jersey, it's Doodletown. I said, Doodletown? What the hell is Doodletown? He goes, that's what we called Newark back in the 50s. I was like, wow. So, that's the great thing about nominated. You get to be in a room with your peers who you've looked up to your whole life, It's a great opportunity.
Oh, that would be so cool just to, like talk to, Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro, just legends.
I know. It's so awesome.
You're definitely in the right spot, to be in the acting to be able to meet all those people. That's so cool.
It's so cool.
So on your Instagram, I've been seeing photos of this delicious food that you make. How did you learn to cook? Is it just you taught yourself, or?
So when I was 17, I went away to college. I went to Northeastern University in Boston. In my freshman year, I lived in the dorms and I was on the food plan. And the food is steamer food. It's cafeteria food. So I'm dying, right? I'm suffering. If it wasn't for McDonald's and pizzerias and sub shops, I don't know how I would have survived. And going out to some nice restaurants once a month when I'd save a little money. So when I came home for winter break, I went to my mom's office party, and one of her colleagues said, so how do you like college? I said, it's all right. I said, but I don't think I'm going back. He said, why? I said, because I can't eat the food. He goes, that's no reason not to go back to college. I said, yeah, maybe for you. I said, I'm Italian-American. I grew up on some of the best food I've ever eaten in my whole life. My mother's an amazing cook. My father's a cook. My cousin owns a restaurant. My uncle's a chef. I said, I'm used to eating really good food. So my mom said, okay, I'm going to give you an electric frying pan, a toaster oven, and a hot plate. I'm going to teach you how to make some basic things. And then when you go back as a sophomore, we'll get you a little studio or apartment with a little efficiency kitchen, and I'll teach you everything I know. And that's how it started in 1979.
Oh, wow.
I've been cooking ever since.
Oh, yeah, I gotta say, some of the pictures I see on Facebook and your Instagram, I'm like, oh my goodness, I really want some of that right now. It looks so good.
If I wasn't an actor, director, writer, I'd be a chef.
Nice. Have your own restaurant.
Maybe. Hey, it may still happen. Who knows?
Also on Instagram, I saw that you are the star of a short film called A Poet's Life. Can you tell us a bit about that project and where our listeners can tune in to watch the film?
So I did a TED-like talk on acting that's on YouTube. And there was this actor, writer, director, a young kid who was traveling cross country, and he was staying in this hotel, and he was feeling, as most artists do at some point in their career, at different points in their career, like, am I going to keep doing this? Because it's not an easy profession, to get a job. And he was scouring the internet, and he came across my talk. And in this talk, I tell the story of the poet. And I said, so there's this poet, and he loves to write poetry, but he's hungry. And the reason why I use the poet to tell the story is because of all the art forms. The poet has the least chance of making a living doing what he or she loves to do, right? The actor can make millions of dollars. The musician can make millions of dollars. The painter can make millions of dollars, usually after they pass on. But of all the art forms, the poet has the least chance of making money. But the poet's hungry, and the poet's got to eat. So the poet takes a job at the local ShopRite or the local Ralph's here in California. What's the supermarkets up there in Ontario where you buy groceries?
True.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what ones are there? Sorry?
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I guess, the Walmart Superstore, Giant Tiger, Food Basics.
So this guy would take a job there because he needed to eat. And one day he's bagging the groceries, and here comes this can of corn he's never seen before. And he looks at it, and he gets inspired to write this poem about this can of corn. So he says to the cashier, give me a pen. And he gets a paper bag, and he starts writing this poem about this can of corn. And the manager says, hey, poet, the groceries, they're stocking up there. You better get back over there. I'm begging you, one second. And he's writing the poem, and he says, hey, look, if those eggs are coming down, if those eggs break here, it's going to cost you your job. I said, I heard you, okay? Give me a minute. And he said, are you talking to me like that? He goes, yeah, I'm talking to you like that. And he says, poet, either you get there and start bagging those groceries or you're fired. And the poet looks at the poem, and he looks at the groceries, and he says to the manager, F you, I'm out of here. And he goes and he writes his poem. Because that's what an artist does. An artist does what he or she does for love, regardless if they're going to eat that day. Think about Van Gogh. Van Gogh painted every day of his life. He ate when he could and where he could. It didn't matter. All he wanted to do was paint. So I tell this story in this TED-like talk, and this kid sees it. It inspires him to continue on to be an artist. And then he writes a short film about that experience. Now, he doesn't know how to get a hold of me. So I get an email from a friend of a friend that says, look, tells me this whole story. This kid, Brandon, wrote this short film based on your TED-like talk at the Jake Carr video, and he wants to get it to you. I said, sure, have him send it over.
Okay. That's cool. So...
Just pause it.
I don't know where you lost me.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not sure what happened, but we'll get you back. So we got you back.
Okay.
So do you have any advice for any up-and-coming actors heading into the, I guess, acting game?
I would say never give up. Okay. Do what you do for love, or don't do it at all. If you want to be a pineapple, hang out with the pineapples. You want to be an orange, you hang out with the oranges. If you want to be a working actor, you better hang out with working actors. Get yourself in an acting class where there's actors who have agents and there's actors who actually are on TV. Because if they see your work in class and they happen to be working on a project and they think you're right for it, you never know. Or one day in class, before class, they might say, hey, who's your agent? And you say, I don't have one. They're like, you're so good. How can you not have an agent? Let me introduce you to mine. So that's the best advice I could give anyone starting out, is immerse yourself into the art form. Do something for your career every day and never give up.
It's very good advice. So what's next for David Marciano? Any new projects coming up?
Well, this is an exclusive, so nobody knows this. So you ready?
We're ready.
I am working diligently on bringing Due South back to television.
Oh, that is awesome.
You know how they're rebooting all these older TV shows like Hawaii Five-O, Magnum PI, Will and Grace?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the process of bringing back Due South.
Yes.
Yeah. I
do-
got commitments from Paul Gross. I got a commitment from the original producer, Robert Lantos. And both Paul and I are going to reprise our roles. And we're going to cast two younger actors in the leads of the original Ray and Benny.
Okay. That is very cool. Do you know what platforms that will be on, or
No, we don't know yet.
not yet?
No, we're waiting to hear from from David Shore. David Shore is the showrunner of House and of The Good Doctor. David Shore's very first job was a staff writer on Due South, and so we've approached David. He's very interested, and we just got to check with Sony Television. And if Sony agrees, we're moving forward.
Oh, that's awesome news. I am definitely gonna make sure that we all stay in listening for that.
Well, you heard it first.
Thank you very much for, like you said, that exclusive.
It is.
So my last question is, well, not really a question, but do you have any shout outs? And if you don't mind, your social media handles, that way our listeners can, keep track of your journey and your upcoming projects.
I don't have any shout outs.
Okay.
Well, let's have a shout out to all of the people in Canada who supported the show the first go around, and hopefully we can turn it on to their children and their nieces and their nephews the second go around. Because without the support of everyone in the Canadian market and the American market and in England, and let's have a shout out to all the fans in England and Australia and Germany. I don't think we'd be even getting an opportunity at looking to reboot this show. But because of that fan base and the popularity of it, and being probably one of the top two most decorated and popular shows in the history of Canadian television, do we have this opportunity in front of us, which I hope we get to bring it back for everyone to experience again.
Yes, we all. I'm sure I can speak for all of the fans that we really hope that project comes through.
No, thank you. Let's put all of our fandom energy together and let's make it happen, okay?
Oh, yes, definitely. And if you don't mind, David, could we get your social media handles? That way everybody can follow you?
Yeah, sure. On Instagram, it's David Marciano7. On Facebook, it's just David Marciano. Twitter is David Marciano. What else is there? I think that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, David, for coming on OLR exclusive. And like I've told you before, it's just thank you so much for this opportunity.
You are so welcome, and thank you kindly for having me today.
Thank you, and you have a great day and enjoy your football.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.